Today, we are talking taxes with USAFacts data partnership manager Sasha Anderson. They've created a tool that helps you know how much of your income really goes to taxes. USAFacts is a nonpartisan, nonprofit civic organization dedicated to making government data accessible to you and me. Sasha, hi.
Hi, Jessica. So nice to see you.
Good to see you. I'm excited for this conversation because the reality around taxes doesn't exactly match the media narrative. For example, the average Californian is not necessarily paying the most in taxes. So how is that possible and what are we missing?
Correct. There's a couple of factors, one of which is there are a number of different taxes levied in states, from income tax to property tax to sales tax. And it depends on both what the tax rates are for that category and how much money you're spending in each category. So when it all shakes out, it really depends on your personal spending of what will be the highest tax state for you.
So let's take each of those categories. Can you help us understand the different taxes? Let's start with the one we all know, income tax. Which states have the highest and lowest income tax?
So income tax is not just the income tax rate, but it's how much you actually pay after deductions, tax credits, et cetera, different programs for different states. So looking at taxes paid as a percent of personal income, on average, New York is the state with the highest income taxes. That might not surprise a lot of folks. And then the lowest tax state is any state without an income tax at all. So that includes my state of Washington.
Now, you also have sales tax. Does that really add up and contribute a lot to a person's overall tax bill?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, sales tax affects all of us anytime we make a purchase, but obviously big spenders are going to be impacted more. States where the largest percent of personal income is spent on sales tax include Tennessee, Nevada, and again, Washington State. Those states have opted not to have an income tax and tend to then have higher categories of other tax, including property tax and sales tax.
Which is one reason we shouldn't only look at income tax. Okay, so there's another category on the list that's called a business license tax. Can that actually be a lot?
Again, depends on the state, and it can add up, though across the board, revenue from business taxes are low as a percent of total state tax revenue. In many states, it's required to have a license to do business or even practice certain professions. And the state with the most income from business licenses is Delaware. That's not necessarily because Delaware has high tax rates, but more so due to the fact that it has favorable regulations for incorporation. And so many people choose to set up business there. And so as a share of the total state tax revenue, more of it is coming from business licenses compared to other states.
So when we look at the tool you all built on your website, there are all these categories and people can hit the buttons and see how they all add up. One of those categories is called a severance tax. What is that?
Yes, this is one that was new to me that I was not aware of, but it's a tax that is levied against companies that are doing natural resource extraction. The state paying the highest amount of severance tax is North Dakota, but they are not the highest producer. That would actually go to, if you're looking at crude oil, that would go to Texas, which produces 4 times the amount of North Dakota, but they pay less in taxes.
Okay, what about corporate taxes? I noticed that they're extremely low across all the states. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I was surprised as well when I saw the analysis. But as a rule, generally, business taxes make up a fairly small percent of a state's tax revenue.
Hmm. I guess they do that to appeal to businesses and make them come there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say is probably due in part to competition and trying to keep taxes low for businesses to keep them in that state, or competing when a business is choosing where to locate.
That makes sense. Okay, so what choices could we make as individuals that could drive up our taxes?
Well, the 3 biggest categories are income tax, sales tax, and property tax. So it's going to depend how you choose to spend your money across those categories. So if you're purchasing a large home, you're going to pay more in property taxes. If you are a big shopper, you'll spend more in sales tax. And if you earn more money, you'll pay more in income tax. It's not necessarily always a strategy, though, to look for a lower tax area. Right? Because if you have more earning potential in a high tax state, that might outweigh the additional taxes paid.
Let's say I'm a renter. Where could I move to lower my tax bill?
Yes, I love this question. So it's going to be all about the income and the sales tax, right? Because you're not worried about property taxes. So I would look at a state like there's a couple special states, New Hampshire and Alaska. They don't have sales tax, nor do they have um, income tax. And so you're looking at a very favorable location for you given where you're spending your dollars. Important to note, New Hampshire does have a tax on investment income, but not on W-2 income. So it depends on your source of income.
Okay, what if I want to own property? Where would I move to have a lower tax bill?
Then you're going to look at a state like Tennessee, which has no income tax and relatively low property and state sales tax based on the average paid in personal income.
So this is one of my favorites. There are cases, and I know some of these folks, where people live in one state but shop in another to lower their tax bill. Can you give us some examples and how that works?
Yes, absolutely. Sneaky little shopping tricks. So one comes again from my home state of Washington. People will hop over to the border and go shopping in Oregon to avoid paying the sales tax we have here in Washington. There is a limit on the amount you can purchase and bring back, but that's a nice little trick. There's the same behavior that happens on the border of New Hampshire where people pop over and do their shopping there and come back. So happens in a lot of places. I'm sure everyone has their personal example from their area.
Right? Clever little hack. Okay, last question. Have you done your taxes? I haven't done mine yet.
I haven't done mine either. So
we're busy.
For everyone that hasn't done them, you're not alone.
Right, I know. So, thank you, Sasha, so much for explaining this all really clearly and breaking down some of these myths out there. I want to tell everybody that USAFacts.org has this tool on their website, and you can really go in there and play with the different categories and see what taxes are like in your state and neighboring states and a place you might want to move. So it's worth checking out. That's at USAFacts.org. And Sasha, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.